Just because you have only one circular doesn't mean that's much of a problem, right? To the 30% of you that have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button, surprise Pikachu face, just smash it so you guys don't miss out. More Oz content. We are going to be looking at the GGStore TCG tournament out of the Philippines, I believe, last weekend, and there were 62 players for this on new list. Now, before you're looking around, you're like, well, why do we go 62 players? That's why we care. All right, new format data. I mean, obviously, we're heading into regional block this weekend. I've definitely enjoyed every breakdown video that I have done so far. Has been like a completely different story. This one's story, we had a lot of branded actually, a lot of branded. Crossout Designator and friends really putting in some work out here for this deck. I am actually very impressed to see that Branded took a huge lead here. Now, what else really surprised me here was Mathmech was literally presumed dead by so many people. Out of this tournament, Circular, that one, not a problem. Double Mathmech was able to kind of stand up to some of the competition here and kind of edge itself over some of the other things that you wouldn't necessarily expect to see out of the metagame. So I find that actually kind of interesting. We also had one Purely player make its way into Top Cut, actually making second place. Now, this is like an extended Dark World package version of the deck. Keep in mind that a lot of people are like, well, you don't really want to try to play too much Dark World stuff. Honestly, maybe it's the way to go at this point. Extending out that package, obviously, might win you some free games. We also had one Cashtira player in Top Cut. I mean, it's literally old reliable at this point. You're making a rise hard if your opponent doesn't have an out. Well, congratulations. You kind of call it a day. And then we also had one Dogmatica making its way into Top Cut. Many of you are familiar with how much I've developed a passion for the ritual version of this deck. This is a little bit different than what we've seen across the board for some of the other generic ritual builds that we've seen. So let's pass on over so you can take a look at these top deck lists. Winning our event here is none other than the power of Branded. Yeah, who didn't see that coming? Yay! We are maximizing on Crossout Designator. Obviously, stopping hand traps is the thing that you have to do with this deck. I've been saying this a lot, the more that we've recorded these. So kind of, keep that in mind here. We're maximizing Triple Fallen of Albaz as well. We're also only playing one Lubellion, one Sarnier. That's really about it. We're also playing the Gold Sarcophagus in here, and we are topping out about 44 cards. Now, before you're like, well, Robbie, 44 is quite a lot. I think it's fine, honestly. A lot of people are probably going to question some of that, but that's fine. We are also citing the Dragon Masquerade down there in the side deck for time, and we have an additional Bysteel package down there as well for access to. So, yeah, overall, not too bad. Main deck in the Super Poly as well. This current build, this actually looks pretty good for what you want to see out here. So, like what we're seeing. Next up over here, we have our second place Purely deck. Now, this is actually super heavy on the Dark World stuff. We are playing one Thrust, so, I mean, you can search for the Dark World or no more if need be. That's kind of hilarious. You can also Thrust into an Evenly Matched if need be. Okay. But yeah, this focuses more on the Dark World side of things. You still are going to be able to do Purely stuff, but, the reason why you're trying to have this extra flow of stuff into this deck is to basically be able to apply pressure on your opponent, all right? The whole thing is, the more the more pressure you can put on your opponent, the better off you'll be. Citing Lightning Storms, Dark Rollers, the additional Evenlies as well, and then, of course, essentially all of the hand traps that you could need. And this build is also only playing one copy of Leap here as well. I don't see anything else too out of left field. Like I said, I think the extra Dark World stuff is definitely an interesting little push for this deck. Next up here is another Fallen of Albaz deck. Man, they were really aggressive with these. So we are playing triple Crossout again. Okay, so we are focusing very heavily on Crossout, for this region. Okay. We are main decking Talents, which is fine. We have Imperms in here, and we still are playing Droll and Lockbird to some degree. Okay. Of course, I see Bysteel Power down here as well in the side deck, and we are citing a good chunk of Kaijus. I think my favorite part about both of these lists so far is no gimmick puppets in either of these. While the expulsion, is banned, obviously you can Albion hand it over to your opponent, but I feel like these duelists just decided that cutting it was a better idea. And honestly, it's not a bad idea. Cutting out some of the dead weight from the deck obviously can get you some better results overall. So not too bad seeing that Branded kind of edged out here too. Next up, 4th place here is Cash Tira. Ah, boy, it's so weird seeing Unicorn and a Rise Heart Limited, but, that's the tale of the format here. I see that we are still main decking Dimension Shifter. Honestly, not a bad call. Shifter still is an incredibly good card, especially versus a lot of the other random things that are kind of running around in this format here. So I find that very interesting. We are also, yes, my favorite, the Nightmare Corruptor Ibly. Well, and I've said this countless times, and I'll continue to go on record for this. If people aren't prepared for, Nightmare Corruptor Ibly, you are literally going to get free wins from your opponent. So kind of keep that in mind. I also like how this deck is double Zeus Magnet Go, and we still are playing the Goliath down here. Yeah, this looks pretty interesting overall. So once again, I like what we're seeing here. Ah, boy, here's our Dogmatica variant. Now, the interesting thing about this is we're not playing the White Knight. A lot of the previous builds looked at White Knight, and I think a lot more people genuinely did like, the power that we were getting with that. Actually, kind of having the rollback here for that, I find a little bit interesting too. We are also very heavily on the Dogmatica, on the Bysteel package in the main deck. Considering, how much Fallen of Albaz you got running around in these events, getting a spot removal off of something doesn't seem too terrible. I also see, of course, we do get to decide the Secret Village down there. Oh man, the Secret Village shenanigans down here that you can actually pull off with this deck is actually kind of hilarious. So your value tree that you get for this deck at certain points is actually incredibly dumb. So yeah, I like what we're seeing here. A little bit different approach than what I expected here. Next up here is our next Dogmatica variant. This build played double Crossout Designator in the main deck. Of course, you are seeing the triple Fallen of Albaz. Looks like 3 Fallen of Albaz might be a norm at this stage. We'll have to wait and see if that holds true here, but okay. I also see that Bysteel package is down there in that side deck, man. 1 Lubellion, 1 Sarnier, and you just side in the rest as need be. Perfectly fine. 1 Branded High Spirits is fine. We are playing, what is it, the Branded in White in the main deck? Okay. TC Boo is also something interesting. We saw TC Boo a long time ago. A lot of people just kind of tossed it away and it just kind of disappeared into the sunset. So the fact that we are seeing a little bit of a slight recursion back for that, it's actually kind of interesting. Outside of that, I don't have anything else really too crazy to say about that. Very interesting tech choices, though, that's for sure. Next up is Mathmech! 1 circular, baby! So this build is playing 2 Small World, of course. You're on 1 circular now. We are playing the Zalaman Great field spell. That's kind of interesting. The fact that you can search it, you may as well, I guess. 45 cards for this. We are playing the Firewall package in here as well, so you'll be able to kind of toggle for the option trees that you want to see for that. And you do see that we are playing the 1 Spirit Monster in here as well. That way you can drop it as an extender, so you can do your thing. And then, well, the loss of Gamma means that, we can now play the other Cyframes and actually get some use out of them. So I think that's kind of hilarious in and itself here, too. That, this deck has gone down a different tree here for options to really consider. And then, of course, still doing Firewall shenanigans all over the place. But this does kind of show that, the deck isn't dead. You just kind of have to do some different lines of play in order to, kind of compensate for the loss of things. And then, of course, hey, look, it is Mathmech again. So this build also still playing triple Small World. 1 Equation, 1 Superfactorial, and then we're on double the Spirit. This is what I kind of expected the deck to feel like it was going to adapt to, because you just kind of scrape out the extra circulars. You cut the deck down from like the crazy 44 that it actually was, and then you're like, okay, cool, so we can go ahead and play this. And that's like the result of what you're having here, versus, the more firewall build that you saw previously. So overall, I think it's not too bad. So that is our breakdown here out of GGStore. Okay. I like what I'm seeing. So please, leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think. See your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.